Good morning, chat. Welcome to another Random Code stream. Gotta move my camera down. This is for coding. Upper right corner is for gaming. So, let me get my music going right away. And play that. Okay. So, I'm going to take a break quick in this stream from the stuff I've been doing in EmitDebugging with interception, which is something I do actually want to try to get done, at least a proof of concept by the end of this week, because I'd like to show that at a conference next week in Winnipeg. But I have also been on vacation this week, and I've just been kind of like, let's do a couple of simple things. Hey, Mitch. Let's do a couple of simple things and not test my brain too much. So, how was the conference? Conference was good. I really enjoyed it. I took, like I said, I took off the week. I was actually on PTO this past week. So, yeah, it's still, in the general sense, work to be up on stage and doing these presentations and things like that. But it was also much more relaxing. San Diego is also just a really nice city, in terms of, especially in terms of temperature. Usually when I've gone to San Diego, it's always very, I'd say warm, but not hot or stifling. The weather's always been good there. And I just enjoyed going to San Diego. So yeah, it was good. The one weird thing was where the conference was at a resort. The resort was fine. The rooms that they had for the sessions, it was just a little bit odd. There wasn't like a hallway or anything that the rooms were isolated from. So you basically had to walk through the back of the rooms to get to each three rooms. There was a fourth one in a different area close by. But yeah, those three rooms. So you would sometimes see people just occasionally walking back and forth in the back, but people were good about staying quiet and not disrupting talks and stuff like that. So that was good. It was just a little bit of an oddity, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it went fine, and I had a good time, and yeah, looking forward to actually going to Winnipeg. So yeah, I'm going to be going to Winnipeg next week, but only for 2 days. I won't be gone for a lot. And actually next week I'm also taking off, so I'll have another week off. So I kind of lumped my vacation up a little bit, 3 weeks over 2 months, and so yeah, I have like 2 weeks and 3 weeks. So it's kind of nice. My work doesn't require me to take time off. They're really good about saying, hey, if you want to do this, we support it, but I'm also, I work from home. I work remotely, so does it really matter if I'm in San Diego or Orlando or anything like that? No, it doesn't. So, I do the talks, and then typically I'm back to work. So, but this week I just wanted to have a nice relaxing week, and yeah, that worked out really well. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is this one hopefully should be easy. It's fixing a bug that when I was doing one of my talks on analyzers this week, and I was preparing for it, I noticed that I had a small bug. If I can zoom in on the picture here. So there's a code fix for when you detect that you're calling new GUID. That's what you can see. You can see where my mouse is flying by here. That's probably not what you meant. You probably meant GUID.newGUID, or you should be explicit to say GUID.empty or default of GUID. So there's been an extra method now added, I think in .NET 9, called GUID.create version 7. And I just inadvertently put the wrong text into the code fix. So it should say here GUID.create version 7. I don't know why I just put the wrong text. So I saw that and I went, whoops. That's not what I meant. So we should be able to fix that pretty quick. And that also shows me, and guilty as charged, that I do not have enough tests around this. So Default code fix. Yeah, I don't. I do not have a test around this. I should be able to say, because it's the third code fix, or the fourth, that gets verify GUID create version 7 code fix. And so we want to say here GUID.create version 7. Now, the reason that this shows up too, if I go into the, well, in the analysis of this, yeah. And I'm going to change some of this code around. That's in a different, I might actually get to that today. But I want to change some of this around because you really, I don't think you should really be kind of caching these things in the compilation start action. I think you should be looking for symbols and stuff when your thing is being called all the time. So in any event, one of the things I do is I detect to see, do you actually have a create version 7 member name on GUID? And that's because it's in some ways easier just to say, well, instead of what version are you on, just see, does a certain thing exist on a type or whatever? And if it does, then you can handle it accordingly. So I think there is also a way to determine what target framework you're compiling for. I just don't remember offhand what that is. But either way, I do this check. And the reason I do this check is because in the code fix over here, what I will do is check the properties to say, well, if that exists, I should offer up a code fix as well. Now, these tests run under .NET 9, so this should show up with the tests. If I was testing under like .NET or .NET Framework 4.8 or something, this would not show up, I don't think. So you can see here, here's the fix. This isn't the fix. This is what I want to change, the constant. It's the wrong constant. So let's first make sure that this test actually fails, and then I'll fix it and see if the test passes. So it fails, as expected. And it's interesting. Thinks the third one just would do a new GUID. Oh, is it because it really didn't fix it? Because there really wasn't a fix for it. That's a little disconcerting. Okay, this might end up being something that's more work than I expected it to be. Okay. So I don't know why I'm making this public. Nothing else can use it. Whatever. What do I have? Constants here. Oh, that's right. This is in that this is in completions. Where is this file coming from? Open containing folder. Oh, it's in shared. Fine. Okay, actually what I'm going to do, hold on. That's a library that I made share, but I'm really going to, there's another story to move that into a, how do I want to say it? into another library that they both share. I just haven't gotten around to that yet. Okay, so here then, what we could do. There. So now that would be correct. We can change that. And then actually in the analyzer, we don't need that. It's going to break something down here where we can say constants. Okay, so that does that. Now let's run the test again. It's going to fail, I think, though, because I think I got something else not quite correct. Yeah, because we're expecting create version 7 and it's not doing it. So first of all, let's go here and let's see if we actually get into this. Oh, yeah. Build, debug. Oh, come on. Bound to a command. Well, can you unbind it so I can actually run it? Oh my god. Can you stop building? I don't know why Visual Studio gets like that. That's another thing is Visual Studio 2026 was announced. There's a preview or an insider. Yeah, actually, you just typed that. I have heard that it's noticeably faster. That I didn't want to install it when I'm at a conference because that's kind of asking for it. You know, if things work, even though in this day and age, updates to like Windows or Visual Studio or stuff are usually very, very stable. I just don't like to take the chance, you know. I don't want to risk it. So, yeah, don't poke the bear. So I didn't want to take a chance in installing it. I will do that probably this week or maybe the week after I get back from Winnipeg. And I might put it on my desktop here, not my laptop. Not yet, because there's no reason to. I don't need to do that there yet. So, but yeah, I've heard from a fair amount of people that the one thing they've noticed is it is like visually noticeably, either faster or slightly faster or significantly faster, but there's a general consensus of it's faster in a whole bunch of ways. So that's good. All right, can I might just stop 2022 and start it again. I also heard one of the many other things is that I was flying out on Tuesday, and so the keynote where they announced this and were showing a whole bunch of stuff was happening in the morning, and so I couldn't see it. But what was I going to say? I've also heard that by default now, when you make a new solution, it's using the SLNX format. And I was like very, very happy about that because even though it's supported in 2022 now, I don't think you can make a blank solution using SLNX. And so you have to make it, then you got to migrate it, and it's a little bit of a pain. But yeah, I'm very happy now that they're doing that. What I'd really like is to have the ability to edit it in Visual Studio like you can do a CS Proj file, but maybe they'll get to that point in the future. All right. So, do we have a breakpoint here? Yes, we do. And actually, let's make sure that we're getting into that breakpoint. Or actually into that fix part. Okay, so do the default code fix. Oh, yeah, we're missing that. Create version 7 exists. Oh, I know why. Because I didn't add it. I didn't add it. Okay, so this will take a little bit of time because now I got to figure out how to do this. If I ran the analyzer, it would have picked up that yes, create version 7 exists. If I go into my test, I can type gwid.create version 7. It's definitely there, but the code fix is on the other side, and so it needs that thing to be filled out in the dictionary here, and I just haven't done that. So I got to do that now in the code fix. I have to figure out where in the hell I put that. Code fix test, yeah. Oh, that's test state equals, what's a test state? Oh, can I say test dot test state dot there's got to be a way to do this. The diagnostic comes from the context. We don't expect a diagnostic, but we are sources is just so a set of source files. Yeah, that's not what we want. Batch fixed state. Code action index, code action verifier, piler diagnostics, diagnostic verifier, fixed code, fixed state, language, markup options. I'm wondering if I remember right. I'm vaguely remembering, and I could be wrong. I thought I had done this. Yeah, it's going to be a terrible search because there's like I'm looking up literal properties. I thought there was a way that I figured this out with a different library. I can't remember which one it is though. There's got to be a way to do this. Yeah, that's not it either. Well, what I thought again was simple is not so simple. Okay, well, we're getting the diagnostic from diagnostics to fix, and then off of the diagnostics we have properties. If we look at the analyzer, It's because we reported a diagnostic. So we don't want to have expected diagnostics because I don't want, I don't necessarily, that might be the way you have to do this, but I don't necessarily feel like that's right. Maybe it is. Like, I don't want it to think like, oh, this should have thrown an expected diagnostic, but maybe that is the way to do it. Expected diagnostics.add a new diagnostic result. How do I do that? Okay, so if we need a diagnostic result, can I? Yeah, there's no properties on it, but I think this is the result. We need to actually pass in the diagnostic descriptor. If I say var diagnostic descriptor, I say new diagnostic descriptor. And then couldn't I? Okay, so how does that actually? This is part of a diagnostic. And then on the code fix side, we get the diagnostic. So there should be a properties on it, right? That is a diagnostic. Oh, okay, so this is a diagnostic result. It doesn't have the actual, this is all very confusing at times. We could pass in a diagnostic descriptor, but that is just that's not what I want. We don't want to there's got to be a way to do this. There has to be a way to pass in a diagnostic that if I do this, okay, so wait a minute. Do not create a new group. Yeah, so it. What the hell am I doing here? Oh. Okay. So, okay, sorry. Like I said, I've been on vacation all week. So we are creating a alias to C# code fix test. Didn't I? No, I didn't. These are all doing the same. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So it's got to be. It's got to be doing. What now? Why is it not? Oh. Wait, stop. What? What's going on here? Okay, so we are running the analyzer. And so we're saying, does it exist? And we think that's false. Why? I know this works because I saw this in the type constants exist both in analyzers and completions. Okay. Yeah, I have changed that. Hold on. I'm getting very, very confused right now as to what it's complaining about. Fine, I won't put the constant in. I'll say create version 7. Okay, it doesn't think it's there. To answer your, or just go back on what you said, Mitch, is yeah, it is confusing. I've usually ripped that out and changed it to having like tests, like I think I call it test assistance, and then I explicitly set everything up that way. For some reason with the code fixes, I haven't done that. I thought I did, but apparently I did not. Maybe I did that in... I've got too many projects. I've got too many things that I do, and I don't forget. I forget what I did where, and, you know, life. Yeah, I did do that. So in Rocks, because I do have a refactoring, oh no, not a refactoring. I don't have a code fix, though. But I did do it this though, run refactoring, and then I broke it out. I might do that later, but again, I'm like, why is this not picking up? It's running under the auspices of a .NET 9, right? I mean, if I said GUID.create, yeah, now it thinks there is no create version 7 down here, which is hilarious. I am really getting confused here. That is .NET Standard. Is .NET Standard 2? Wait a minute, maybe I have to do... Hold on. Shit, I should... Sorry. Okay. I've now made a PG. I usually try to... In my coding streams, I try to not go off the rails with language. My gaming streams, that's completely open. Within the limits of YouTube not banning me, but anyway, I think I'm going to test assistance here. Yeah, because I set reference assemblies. What I'm wondering is if I look at test.referenced assemblies, what is that? So see, here it's create version 7, but because we're in the context of the test running, it's different. If I say here test.referenced assemblies, there are no reference assemblies. Oh, look at that. .NET Core 3 App 3.1 is the default. Okay, well, guess what we're doing, Morning Bitch, and whoever else is watching, and anybody else who watches in the future? We're going to be ripping it apart, because that's obviously the right thing to do. Well, what I thought was going to be a simple stream is no longer simple. It's not going to be hard-ish either, but we're going to have to do some things here. So, test assistance. Okay. So, let me space out here for a second. I got to do some stuff. Static class. Let him cook is the phrase I think that has been said in the past. I want to say, no, not a fact. Internal static async task run code fix async. Now, what I have been doing in all of these is I've been saying, for example, like I've been passing in string original code, string fixed code, and then I pass in, I think, yeah, int code action index. Okay, now I am going to want to say, yeah, t-analyzer, t-code fix, where t-analyzer is a diagnostic analyzer, where t-code fix is a code fix provider. Because we're going to have different ones for all this stuff. Wow. Why did you say wow for? That's an out of context wow. So, okay, so then let's get rid of some stuff here because I need to. Oh, Netcore 3.1. Oh, yeah. I think that's just the default of this test library setup, and they never changed it, is my guess. Haven't heard that in years. Yeah, they should really update. Okay, so these test libraries, by the way, here's a little bit of a rant. Like these code fix testing, code refactoring testing, they're great. They're awesome. They actually help a lot with tests, especially if you're doing anything Roslyn based. They're also stuck in 1.1.2, and that's a problem because they don't get the love they deserve because, admittedly, not a ton of people use them. You find a lot of people writing this kind of stuff. But there is a severe bug in one of them that it has to do with suppressors. And I ran into it with rocks. And so there's a test in rocks I have to skip because I can't run it. The test stuff underneath the scenes actually it throws an exception. And it's not your fault. It's their fault. So, and of course with cuts at Microsoft, the people that usually support it are not supporting it. So, yeah, it's a problem. They need to release a 1.1.3, and they haven't yet. What they should also do is change the default to be like .NET. Well, in a couple months, .NET 10, because that should be default. You know, the supported modern version. Why it's stuck on .NET Core 3 is just amazingly ridiculous. Anyway, okay, so analyzer test. What is analyzer test? No, I don't want to take a screenshot. I want to do this. Okay, so we need a code fix test thing too as well. we want to have a code fix test. And this would be an internal sealed class code fix test. That has the same thing here. And then their analyzer test. Yeah, so we want to then say we're deriving from C# code fix test. Except we want to pass in T analyzer here and T code fix. Right? And then we just make the default verifier that because that's all I need. And then we need to have the constraints on it. Wait, what do I usually do? Do I do that? I don't know. What do I usually do? I put it on the other line. My God. And then we'll say this. Okay. And I don't know if I need to really override anything. Okay, what's the problem here? Must be non-abstract. Oh, do I need to say new here? Wait, what is the problem? Oh, shut up. Okay, so let's make sure those are updated as well. Okay, now we can close this, and I think we can now say we want to have a var test is equal to a new code fix test, passing in T analyzer, T code fix. No. And then we want to pass in these things, right? But what we're also going to do now is we're going to say additional references. And we want to add analyzer, we want to add code fix, T code fix. And then we also want reference assemblies. That's the big one. I think they might be getting a little funding right now. I saw a PR the other day that added fix all support to code refactoring has been requested for years. Yeah, I hope they do. I know it's been a real big change internally with how a lot of things are structured and stuff like that, but you know, they also been making work. I give my hats off to the people that are there. It's got to be so... It has to be demoralizing to see people that you've worked with or people that you know get let go. And honestly, through no fault of their own. They were doing good work, they were contributing, and then they're let go. And it's like, what is going on here? I'd be very discombobulated, you know. So that's got to be tough. I think that's actually really tough. Okay, so we'll add those in. And then we should be able to say here, reference assemblies, and we'll say get .NET 9, and again, we'll copy pasta. And I don't know if I actually have the library referenced. Yeah, I don't. Okay, so we're gonna have to change that. Test assistance. It just, you know, compounds, doesn't it? What I need is, what is the library that I need? NuGet frameworks. Wait a minute. This is in Transpire now. I do have it here. Yeah, this. Okay. So we'll take that out. We'll put it in completion test. There. And it should pick up that I want that. And now it's got that there. Would be absolutely demoralizing. You can just tell from how some of them engage with the community and more blunt. Yeah, well, true. Some of them have always been a little blunt. That's just the way they are sometimes. But yeah, I can't imagine it being a very nice. Nice is not the word I'm looking for. Environment, but yeah. All right, so let's do that. Okay, so now we have this in place. Does this actually help? So if I go to this test here, okay, and instead of doing this verify async thing, I say await test assistance dot run code fix async, or what I want to pass in. Hold on, let me just check something here. Yeah, I am doing that. Okay, fine. So this is find new grid, and then we want find code fix. And then we want to pass in as original code, fix code, and 3. Because obviously. And then we don't do that. And then we'll take this. Then I'll have to, on my own time, go back through and change all these so that they're using this if this works. Future stream idea, making sure library with all this stuff you come in the copy. Yeah, I've thought of that. I use Git submodules instead of NuGet for something similar. That's an idea. That's an interesting idea. I honestly don't know off the top of my head what a Git submodule is. I've never used that. I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. So that could be an idea. It could also be just something to go. Well, so there's two sides of there's actually more sides of this equation here, because there's shared stuff that I've done in analyzers, in code fixes, in refactorings, and then all the related test stuff as well. And so there would be this whole suite of packages that I would want to make, and then to have a test one, and then have test a test a test. That could be just a whole project in and of itself. And yes, it would be good. The one thing about copy pasting though is that I don't have to make then a change somewhere else. If I add something to this library, then I got to publish it, then I got to get it into this one, that could also make some things. So maybe Git submodules as a way to make it simpler. I don't know, but I have thought in general of saying a lot of this stuff that I have done across all these things, it might make it easier, if only for my own benefit, because it may not be beneficial for others. I don't know. It's beneficial to me. So yeah, having something that makes it easier to do this copy pasting stuff. So I'll have to look into what Git submodules are and see if that's a possibility to do, because that may very well be an interesting solution to all this. So I'll have to keep that in mind. Put it in the Discord, Mitch, so I don't forget. All right, what does this do now? Does this actually help? Hey, look at that. Test passes. Yippee. That was the problem. All right, so I guess, first of all, we're going to get on this test here. We're going to remove this. And now we're just going to force it. Okay. So we're going to come down here and we're going to say fix code 0. And then this one would be 1. And then this one would be 2. And then that should be it. Yeah, okay. And then we can get rid of some of these. And then let's just run these tests and see what they do. They all pass. All right. Well, how much time have been going? Almost 50 minutes. That's okay. I got time this morning. I got time. I don't have coffee and I didn't make any more, so I'm thinking this is such an important thing to do. I should do this on all my tests. You know. And then we say here, we just copy, yeah, it would be copying these, and then we can get rid of that. And then we just put this in here, and we don't. Oh, So in this case, yeah, it doesn't need it. Okay, that's fine. We can make this optional. We can say int code action is equal to 0. Because you have to have at least one. Although arguably, why don't we just make it explicit and just say the index is 0. And then we can get rid of that, and then we can run these tests. 2 passed. Yippee! Why did 2 pass? Oh, because it's 1 at the top. Okay. So we got that one done. Let's move here. Hopefully this should be quick. And then we grab this from here. We take that off. That now gets rid of this. And then we copy that there. And again, the default will be 0. That should now fix this. Yep. All right, next. This one. So yeah, this will take me, my guess is about 5-10 minutes to fix all these up. But this is important, you know. Mitch was right that using these classes like the way I've been, or at least not using them with the alias and calling them directly like that, is the right way to go. And I have been changing them across my projects. It's just for whatever reason with the code fix here, I did not do that originally. So that is called my fault or my problem. So we grab these two, get rid of that, and then we can come up here, get rid of those, and do that. And then we should be able to run all the tests here. And they all pass. Excellent. And guess what we do now? You'll never guess. Take this, put it down here, and get rid of that, get rid of that, run these. Hey! All right, so we did that one, so we only got 3 left to go. Okay, I didn't copy pasta. That's my fault. Okay, this one, take that off. This is going to be 0, and we do that. We take that out, and then we don't need this anymore. Grab this. Put that there. Run that one. Those pass. All right, so 2 more. Get rid of this, and then that should get rid of these 2. Do that. And the last one. Grab this. Okay, and did I interpolate? It should be okay. I got to change that. That's what I thought. Okay, and then down here. All right, let's run all tests because now everything should pass again. Just giving it a second. Come on. This isn't that big of a project. Should be quicker than this. Why are you taking forever? There you go. Okay. So, sorry, that was a little disconcerting. I was like, come on. All right, so let's commit this. 38 fixed the code fix and updated all tests to be more flexible. All right. There we go. Actually, that's one thing I also just thought of is I don't know if I did this on some of my other projects, but I think sometimes reference assembly, I think this downloads it, but that should be quick. That should be cached. So maybe that's not necessarily a thing to worry about. Now, the big one, if I say file, open project solution, let's go up to Transpire, source, and then let's do the scenarios one, because this is how I found it, because this is what led to all of this, is because I wanted to show the audience, hey, this is what happens when these things kick in. So if I go calling new GUID, okay, that's an error. Perfect. Now if I do create version 7, create version 7. Fixed. That's exactly what we wanted. Okay, so let's go back to, no, not cancel. Transpire. Now notice one thing I've noticed, it keeps asking me to save the solution file, the SLNX file. I've noticed that on both my laptop and this one. Whenever I close it, it's always asking to update it, and I don't know why. It doesn't harm anything. It's like it doesn't actually show up in the git commit as a change, so I'm like, why does it actually do that? Anyway, what did I want to do here? Oh, I want to go into change log. Is that in the package? No, that's up here. Okay. So yeah, we haven't released it. We want to fix the create version 7 code fix option for GUID. Okay, and then we're on issue 38. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've been getting that to happen too. Okay, so I'm not the only one. I'm guessing they have a small bug. And I know what they'd say, repo please. I'll send them a clip of this video, of this stream. Be like, see, it's happening. I'm not crazy. You're crazy. Okay, so that one is there. There are going to be a couple of other things I want to do with 1.2.0 before I release that one. But we have fixed this. So we can say git commit 38, updated change, log, time for merge, push. All right. Give me a second. I'm going to just do some pushing, push that into this, merge. Yes, save it. Jeez, I don't care. Push. All right, and then we'll come down here and we should see that those came in, so we can close the issue. All right, and then let's get rid of these branches. Cool, so that takes care of that one. Let's spend some time looking at the other thing I wanted to do. So the other one was refine refactoring mock type choice. So this is actually in rocks, right? Yeah. So since we already have it open, we can just leave it there. Okay. This is so by the way, with rocks, this is like my main, all the other things I've been working on are just projects that I definitely make sure I put the time and effort to make them good. But this one has become like my main thing that I work on, this mocking library. And I've been, in the last month or two, I've been trying to raise some visibility to it when I show mocking in any, like in any presentations that I do. Like last week, one of the things I do is in the workshop for Blazor that I do with 2 other guys. I spend a bit of time on testing Blazor components, and so I'll show rocks in there for mocking, and it's just because I'm actually, I don't want to say proud of it in a pride way, but I am proud of what I've done here. I look back on some of the stuff I've done, and I'm like, I've put in a crap ton of effort on this thing, and I'm not saying everybody should use it, but at the same time, I'm like, I would have a hard time going on the project. It's like, well, we use MOQ or we use NSubstitute, and be like, I got something, did it at work. We're now using it on like 2 or 3 projects, and it's worked out fine. There's been no issues, which is, well, we found like 2 or 3 bugs, but they've been very, very minor, and I've been able to fix them pretty quick. So anyway, yeah, I'm kind of proud of this thing. With these issues, I think if I look at 9.3, yeah, here's one that you put in there, Mitch. Come on, give me a PR. I might push some of these back. Like, this is the one I'm going to work on right now, is this refined refactoring mock choice. Some of these I might push out a little farther, and because we're coming to .NET 10, and while I don't, for one thing, it's just happenstance that the version of Rocks is now kind of aligned with the versions of .NET, but that is not, that wasn't on purpose. That's literally happened by accident, and it may happen that I go beyond, because I do follow Semver, whereas .NET, yeah, I guess you can say it does, but yeah, they arguably can say it does, but I might go ahead of it just because of following Semver, and if I find a bug or something, then I got to publish a major, no, not a bug, but a breaking change or something like that. With 10, I think I made a slight mistake in Rocks, which is the ref assemblies, or the ref struct thing. I use the anti-constraint allows ref struct in Rocks generated code, which is actually made, I supported ref structs before, but it made things internally with Rocks so much easier with respect to ref structs. And so it was a no-brainer to put it in, but the thing was, I had to make a choice. If I put it in, if somebody's referencing Rocks from .NET 8, that wouldn't work. I should be proud. Rocks is great. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. If somebody was referencing .NET 8, they wouldn't, the generated code wouldn't work because it doesn't understand allows ref struct. So I basically just said, fine, Rocks in version 9 can only support .NET 9, if that makes sense. So even though all of the Rocks stuff targets .NET Standard 2.0, the code it produces is meant for .NET 9, particularly if you're doing anything with ref structs. If you don't, then it will work, I think. Actually, no, that's not true, because I always generate a type for using ref structs in certain cases, so it's always there. So no, that's actually not true. It has to be .NET 9. So yeah, there's that. I think with .NET 10, I'm also going to say with Rocks.NET 10 that it will only reference .NET 10 and beyond. But from that point on, I think I'm going to try to make a much more concerted effort to try to say, hey, you know, if something comes on the odd releases, which are typically shorter supported release schedules, then I might just wait until the next one, or see if I can put in some logic into rocks to say, if, you know, the caller is on .NET 11, then do this or something like that. Nothing else has come close with ref functionality. I'm assuming you mean, funny, that was actually the killer feature that got me onto rocks. That's actually cool. Yeah, in this video that I made on my channel, that was like 10 years of rocks. It wasn't a stream, it was a recorded video, but I show some things that rocks can do that MOQ and NSubstitute can't handle, and one of them, surprisingly, was ref structs. I forget exactly what the deal. In fact, well, I should be able to see that right here because I have it open, because I have now a comparisons project in here, and I have span, uses span. No, not that. It's the comparison tense project. Yeah. So use a span test. So with mock, it won't work. So you can't even call setup. And so, and the same thing with NSubstitute. You get some very, very bad errors if you even try to do it. And this is, to me, you know, it may not seem like a big deal, but it is. It's actually an extremely big deal if you are doing mocking, because ref structs are becoming more and more of a thing. Span and read-only span are ref structs, and they're becoming increasingly popular with every version of .NET. They're just showing up everywhere. And if you have an interface or something that is in a type that a mocking framework sees, it has to support ref structs. And MOQ and NSubstitute will not. They just won't. And it's primarily because of the expression tree reliance that those other mocking frameworks have. It just doesn't. It just doesn't actually work. So yeah, you'll get a very bad exception. And then removing it with passing in a span, yeah. If you remove it, you'll get a really, really awful error. So, because expression trees don't understand ref structs, and they will never understand ref structs because expression trees are frozen. They will not be updated anymore. The .NET team, C# team, has been very explicit about expression trees. They will not update them. They were debating that for years. They actually, I think, were starting to look at that a couple of years ago, but they said it's going to be too much effort to bring them up to being on par with the language, and then they have to do that for every new version of the language. And they just basically said, nope, if you want to do anything with like expressions, actually like pass in a bit of C# code and then parse that with Roslyn and then examine that to figure out what you really want, which is kind of true, although I've wanted to spend some time and show people how to do that. Problem is that there's so many libraries like Link that rely upon expression trees. So you can only do some stuff, but you'll get caught on other things that just won't work. So again, with mocking libraries, if you have to do anything with a ref struct, they won't work. And you can say, well, then I just won't use a mocking library. And that's fair. I get that. I feel like over the years, mocking frameworks had a lot of use and potentially overuse. And then I think there was a backlash to say, no, you should never use them. They're awful. That, you know, they're a crutch and they do bad things. And I think that's fair too. I think there's some validity to those criticisms. I think there's a middle ground though, that in some, you know, there are definitely cases where being able to mock stuff out is a handy thing for isolation in your tests. And you shouldn't throw these out. And if you need one, use rocks. Anyway, so this also seems to be a few. There also seems to be a few dot enumerator in the VCL that are rough structs now too. Yeah, there's no avoiding this anymore. Not that people have been trying to avoid it, but this one thing out of anything that I showed in my video where like rocks does something that the other ones can't. Like rocks can handle pointers. Well, I personally in my 22 plus years of writing C# .NET code, I've never explicitly had to use a pointer. I just haven't. And that's not to say other people haven't. Of course, it definitely happens. And I've also seen interfaces out there in NuGet that have types that are pointers, you know, and parameters and stuff like that. So it's like, it definitely is used. It's not an esoteric thing, but it's also a very, I'd say, rare-ish thing. So Rock supports it, the other ones don't. But something like span, I think, is a much bigger deal. I think that's actually a really big deal. So, and it's going to eventually make it so, and that's why I'm trying to push Rocks more, is because if people look at the other ones and go, well, this doesn't work anymore, I can't use it, so I might as well throw the idea of mocking out. I want to say, like what's that meme? It's like, hello, I'm over here, use me, use Rocks, it can work, it will work with this. So, anyway, what is the thing that I want to work on here? Well, it is, what's this out? Refactoring the mock type choice. So I made a refactoring in Rocks, and the intention is that you could be on a type. Can I show this? Let's see if I can actually just show it. Let's go to projects and solutions and bring up the scenarios. I should be able to do this. Wait, I'm on where am I? What am I doing with my life? I'm in the wrong. There we go. Save. Oh my god. Okay. Oh, I wanted to bring up the Rock Scenarios project. I am all over the place this morning. There we go. All right. So, if I go to scenarios and I say factoring targets, if I put the cursor here, what we should get, and it may not show up because, you know, reasons on how no, I don't want that. I want renamed. No, I don't want that. Let's just say public class my thingy. If I do this, there we go. Now I picked it up for whatever reason. Okay, fine. So Rock attribute definition, because you need this assembly attribute defined for Rocks. And I wanted to do it so that you can just go on a type, put this in, and then it will also put it into a file if you have a property set in your chproj file to do that. And I thought that's a little bit of a convenience thing, and it's kind of nice, I thought, to do that. Because like you see, we have mock definitions here. If I actually say this, yeah, now it's got this one here. Okay. I thought, though, it's not picking it up for this one. I didn't think I was smart enough to say it's already defined here, so you don't have to do it. I don't know, maybe I am, but whatever. In any event, what I did notice is something like, do I have a... I don't think I do. So let's put in a target here. Let's do something like public class property type, okay? And then we'll have public class consuming type. And then we want public property type is my property. And we'll just have the classic get and set. Okay. And now you're saying, you must be your non-notable value requires and blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. All right. Those are technical phrases I just used there. Now, if I say on here, it should give me the offering up, and it does, and it's for the consuming type. Great. But if I'm on the property, I think this is the problem. It'll say rock aperture definition, but it will be on the consuming type. And so this is actually, since Mitch is here, and somebody else is here, This is where, hey guy, you're the other one. Get your rocks off on this beautiful site. So I can get two opinions here. Does it make sense if you wanted to say, well, what I wanted to do is I want to mock the type that the property is, or should it be doing what it's doing right now and saying, I want to actually make all the mocking stuff for the containing type of the property? You know, now if I'm on the type itself, what it should do is, right, it's going to pick the type itself. That's fine. But if I'm on the property, does it make sense that it should be the property type or the declaring or the containing type? And I don't know. This is where, like I said, the refactoring picks the containing type for members. If you're on a property or field, the refactoring targets the type of the property or field. If you're on a method, pick the containing type of the cursors on the method. Pick the type of the parameter, the cursors on the parameter. But then that would feel inconsistent if I did something like this. If I said public void do stuff property type, okay. Now what I'm saying is, what is this complaining about? Oh, whatever. We'll make this virtual too, just to push the point home. All right. Now, if I'm on the parameter here, what it does is, again, it goes to the property type. If I'm on the method here, it goes to the consuming type. This is what it does now, and I'm trying. It like something about this does not feel consistent. Like if I pick the parameter, it's getting the parameter's type. If I go with this, it's definitely going to get the parameter type. But if I'm on a property, a member itself, it gets the containing type. But if I'm on a type reference or definition, it gets that explicitly. Maybe that does make sense. I would only ever use it on the type syntax anyway, not property parameter. Yeah, that's true. I mean, the primary scenario is to be on something like this and then say, generate it for me. That is, you are correct, Mitch, in that is the scenario I'm trying to have the refactoring there for. But I also kind of said, well, it's kind of nice to say, hey, if I'm on something else within a type, and I'm like, hey, I need this also to be mocked, and it's also a type I don't necessarily own. Like I don't have it defined in the code. I would here, but I shouldn't have to say, well, you got to have 12 to it. That wouldn't work if it's in a reference assembly. And so I would want to have here the ability to just say, hey, mock it, So it's kind of like, maybe this is okay. Maybe this is the way it should work. And I just have to be clear and say, if you're on a member of a type, it will offer up a refactoring for that containing type. If you're on a type definition itself, it will offer it up for that type definition. Okay. And if you're on a method, here it should like I said, this should offer up for the consuming type, right? But if you're in a method and you're on a property, or I'm sorry, a parameter, well, the type here is going to be property type, because the way that I wrote this refactoring is it keeps going like up to your parent and your parent all the way up to the compilation unit syntax node. That's the root node, essentially. And if it can't find, excuse me, something that is like a type, then it will just not offer up the refactoring. It doesn't have an exception. It just doesn't show it. So in this case, what it's doing is it's saying, well, what is the thing, like if we actually look at the syntax visualizer here and I click on type, you'll see over here that it's part of a parameter, and that parameter, actually, if I'm on the type here and then I say identifier name, the identifier name has a token. This is a different token. So if I was here, what it must do is it escapes out to the parameter. And I think on the logic for the refactoring is that it then says, well, it's an identifier. I don't remember what I actually do here. But it's obviously got to be picking the fact that, yes, this is, we want it for the property type. But if I'm on, and then property type will do that too, because that is an identifier. But on members themselves, they'll go to the consuming type. So I'm kind of talking myself out of changing anything. Maybe the right thing to do is just to document this and say, you know, if you're on a type definition or a type reference, there is no type reference there, syntax node, right? There's only this is an identifier name. So if you're on an identifier name like a type reference, this is an identifier token, or if you're on an identifier name or you're on a class type declaration, it will offer up a refactoring if it can for that type. If you're on a a member of a type, like a method here, or a property, it will offer up a refactoring for the containing type. Okay. And then if you're on a parameter, it will offer it up for the parameters type. You know, and then if you had a type here, well, that falls under the first category, which is it's on a type. So I've got the feeling that what I'm going to do is just change the docs and make them explicit to say, you know, the type that will be selected for the refactoring works as follows, and then just put that in the documentation and be nice and be done with it. Because I think it's the simplest thing to do. And you're right, Mitch. If I'm even aware of the refactoring, which I do have in docs, I did put it in the docs, but if I'm aware of it, the primary intent is that you're on a type, you're on an identifier, and then I do this. That's what I'm really doing this for. You know, and then it's these other cases of if you're on a member, it will be on the containing type, and if you're on a parameter, if you're on the parameter name, it will do it for the parameters type. I mainly do the attribute and partial types way, not assembly way, so I haven't really, yeah, and that's the other option too. And the refactoring doesn't handle that. What Mitch is referring to is that there's an option. I probably have an example somewhere of this. There is an example. It wouldn't be in here. It would be in the actual big solution itself. Probably in the integration test somewhere. Partial tests. Yes, so this is, I think, what Mitch is referring to, where you can say on a partial type that it will get all of the rocks mocking generated code for this type. And the reason you can do, or the reason this is offered up, is because you may not like the names that rocks generates, because it would say by default with the assembly level definition, if you did it that way, it would be I target partial create expectations, and you just might not like that. So this allows you to say, well, I'm going to define a partial class, and then rocks will put all of that stuff within this partial type. And so then you can see down here, we're doing everything the same except that name now is partial create expectations. So that's just a choice you can make and you can do. And I'm kind of glad that I added this in, because it was done in part if you don't like the names and you want to have more control over the names. I didn't want to put in something like in a configuration file to say, how do you want to actually change, how do you want to make the names for these things, whatever. Just do this. And then you can stuff those all into a file that you want. Why don't I do a refactoring for that? You could ask. It's because it starts getting a little hard to do it that way. shouldn't say hard. I think if you're going to do the partial route to handle the name, well, then you're going to have to create the class yourself, and then to put this attribute on top of it. It's like 5 seconds of code. It's really not that hard. So, mainly preference, and mainly I think you mean prefer it for the extensibility of adding my own members versus the naming stuff. Yeah, that's true too. I mean, then that's correct. You could, if you really wanted to, and that's the other reason I put this in here, is because you can, if you want, it's a partial class, you can put your own stuff in there for whatever reason. If you want to like do things, to something else, or the mocking stuff that will be added in there, you can do that. And it actually makes for a kind of a nice extensibility story. And I think I've added in code to rocks to make sure that the types that it generates do not collide with other things that exist within like that namespace and stuff. It will just keep like adding a 2, 3, 4, or whatever to make sure there are no collisions. So that would be handled as well. But with extension everything, maybe I don't need that as much. That's true too. It's funny. At the conference this week, I was having some talks with people and some conversations, and there was brought up that one of the things that somebody doesn't like about C# is that it's not idiomatic, or that, more to the point, we really don't have an idiomatic way to write C#. And if you don't know what that means, is in general, there's been this thing sometimes with languages where people say, what's the idiomatic way to write this code? What is the way that everybody just basically tends to write code in this language? Even though it's not, one way is not more correct than the other per se. It's more of like a stylistic idiomatic way of doing things. And in C#, it's getting kind of hard to do that because there's like so many different ways to define properties, and now with primary constructors and a whole bunch of other things that come in, extensions coming in C# 14, to be like the new way of doing extension methods. And I'm thinking extension members, extension everything. In C# 14, it will only be methods because that already exists, but also properties. And it seems like in C# 15, the intent is to expand that to maybe extension constructors, extension events, extension indexers, extension operators, that kind of stuff. So Pythonic and Python, yeah, that's a thing too. So with the point of extensions and the new way of doing it, like Mitch said, this might not be in the rocks world something that is as useful, but maybe it is. Again, the point of why I did this is because it was primarily to say, if you don't like the naming convention that rocks does with its types, then you can just do this, and then it will be named this way down here. And then it's completely up to you as to how you name stuff. So either way. So yeah, I'm thinking, and not because I'm kind of getting near the end of my time on this, I'm kind of thinking what I'll do off camera is just change the docs and be very explicit as to what the rules are, because I think the rules are actually pretty, like, it falls out that it is pretty much makes sense. And for the vast majority of cases, the intent is that, again, you are on a type. And I think that's one thing too I don't do with the refactoring, is because refactoring is in a type that it can't figure out whether it can actually make an attribute for it. Oh, I just realized too, why was it able to not offer it up on that one type, like I just was wondering about, like 5 or 10 minutes ago? It's because I offer up the refactoring, but I think what the compiler infrastructure or Visual Studio, whatever, realizes is that it wouldn't make a change to that document. It's already there. So I think it just says, well, then there's no reason to declare it twice, I guess. Maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, I'm rambling on and on. The refactoring can't get a reference to the analysis assembly. And if it did, that gets actually really hairy, and I don't necessarily want to do that. Maybe, I don't know. But I don't think I really want to do that. In any event, what I want is a place of like a shared place to say, hey, can I actually mock this type out? But what I said is, nah, I'll just put it in there. And then if it can't, then we'll get, like Rox will give a compiler error to say, well, I really can't mock this thing, you know? So anyway, I think at the end of the day, the right thing to do is like, it's going to pick partial tests. That's the right thing to do, is to have that target there. So, and then if I was in the attribute here, I bet this should say test. No, it doesn't. Huh. That's interesting. Why is that? Because you'd think, well, wait a minute, that's on a test attribute. That is a identifier. Why did it pick the partial test here? That's an identifier token. That should be the name. I wonder if my logic ends up like falling down into where it's declared and it says it's a create. I don't know. But again, this starts getting into, well, what's it going on this? Okay, I'm now curious. My curiosity killed me. Why is it doing this? So this should be on completions, refactoring. And then there's something in here that I created a method to basically just say, oh, does it not have it already? So yeah, I guess I do check that out. Mock type symbol. Find parent symbol. So we find what you clicked on, and then we go into this, and somehow within all of this logic, I remember Mitch was watching me when I was doing this, somewhere with all this logic, I am somehow picking up that I wonder if it's thinking that it's an object creation expression syntax, because that is actually a constructor call. That's one of the weird things about attributes, is that this is technically it's a method declaration, it's an attribute list, but this ends up being, I believe, I know it says identifier name, which is what it should. Get to here. But then we get the symbol info for the symbol. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Well, I should have tests for this, right? Run when target is predefined type async. Do we have a test in here? We have an object creation one. But that makes sense because that's what this is. I don't see anything with attributes. Run when target is attribute declaration. Maybe you need that tiebreaker fix I had to do for the literal number code fix. If I remember what that was. Like, I know what you're talking about. That's in Transpire, but I don't remember the specifics around it. So let's put in a test here that says run when target is attribute async. So what we want is like public sealed class my attribute. We'll just say data attribute. And that derives from attribute. And that should be okay. And we don't, like... I think you should have attribute targets on this. Okay, fine. Let's make sure we got... What's it going to say here? Specify attribute data. Oh, fine. There. There. You good now? Hope you are. And then we don't even need this. We can do this. And then we're just going to say data. Okay, except I took away, we need that there. So we want to have, and then we want to have, there. Okay. All right. So the fixed source should be all of this, except not this stuff. Yeah, funny, if it's a predefined type of object, it will say object. Here, we would expect it. I'd almost expect it to be data, but it's putting in target usage here, right? So if I run this now, oh crap, I'm in main. It failed. Why did it fail? Excuse me. Diagnostic test date. Type or namespace attribute. Fine. I have to actually write correct C# code. Jeez. Still failed. Okay, why did you fail now? Oh, using system. Oh. Oh? Really? I might just have the... Oh, it doesn't put a blank line here. Just kind of ugly. That actually works. Oh, that's right, because that's what it is doing. We're saying, no, it should actually be on the thing there. So let's excuse me, let's follow this. Oh, you're going to say I'm in release mode, aren't you? No, I wasn't. Okay. So we're on attribute syntax. Okay, so what I was seeing in the syntax visualizer wasn't necessarily lining up with my expectation. I thought it was saying identifier name, but it wasn't. It was saying, no, that's an attribute syntax node. Okay, so that explains a little bit of it. But now we're saying find a match, which we don't. And so now we go to the parent. Parent is the attribute list, which we don't find a match. We go to the parent. This should be at some point the class declaration. And now we will, because that is a base type, or it's one of those listed in there. Yes, and so now we go to that. And that's why it's picking it. Okay, see you, Mitch. Thanks for stopping by. So yeah, eventually we get down to one of these, and then we say the parent symbol will be the target usage. So that makes sense. So I think what Mitch was saying is right. We would want to have here maybe like an attribute syntax node and say that. So why don't I just say get new branch, we'll do this, and hopefully it does the right thing and says, hey, you got changes. Bring the changes to there. Yes, uncommitted changes will move to there. Okay. And now what we want is a type of attribute syntax. Okay. We have base, predefined, we can say type of, else if parent is attribute syntax, attribute syntax. I don't know if this will work. Not sure if this will work. So let's get rid of all the breakpoints. And we're going to hit this in this test. Okay, and so then we say parent symbol will be this. That will be the data attribute. Nice. Okay, and so now it's going to fail because it's going to, well, it should have failed. Because we stopped, it probably meant it didn't move. But now this should be data attribute. What did it fail on? Target usage. It still picks target usage. That doesn't make sense. If I come back out here and I do that, now let's come back to my test here. Target, why did it come out with target usage? Wait, no. Oh, I know why. Hold on. I think it is not a name type symbol. That's why I jumped the gun a little bit, I think. So I say parent symbol is that. Okay, now parent symbol, if I say parent symbol is I named type symbol, I should say false. Get type full name. It is a method symbol. That's right. Okay, so in the case of an attribute syntax, because again, that's what I was saying before, is that it's actually a method symbol. It's a constructor. When you put that on, when you use that, that's actually technically saying I'm calling the constructor on that attribute. Okay. So what I want is parent symbol as I method symbol containing symbol. And that should be name is the data attribute. That's what I want. Okay. So here we want to say method gets symbol as I method symbol. Actually, we can be even more defensive. We can say parent symbol is this if parent symbol is I method symbol. We can say parent symbol is method symbol containing type. Now I think it should work. And it does. Okay. Is that correct? It makes logical sense to me. If I was on that, I would say, well, I want to be able to mock the attribute, which is weird. Why would you want to mock an attribute? But you might, for whatever reason. And so now that will actually put that name of that type in there. And I think that makes sense. Like if you're on a, and again, if you're on a syntax visualizer here, this is where it might be a little weird, is that it's saying I'm on the identifier token, which is an identifier name. So you would think it would actually have picked that because it's an identifier name. But technically when this runs, what we're getting is the node to be an attribute. If I come back here to the test and click on the attribute, we're getting an attribute syntax. This is what we're actually getting. Even though we've clicked on just this, it's giving us an attribute. Okay. And I'm sure I could play with this more and more and go, well, what about this case? Well, what about this case? But again, Mitch said, and I agree with him, that in the large, like if I click on test assistance here, what would this end up being? Well, it won't show here because we're now in a scenario where it won't pick that. But the vast majority of cases is I'm on a type and I wanted to just click that and that, or do the refactoring and get that to show up at once. We don't necessarily want to go on invocations and start going, well, wait, I want to do that. Although you could. What would happen in that case if I go to rock scenarios and I just had something in here that said public, let's say we had a public static class. What do we want to do here? If we said type dot to string, and yes, it's going to give me the that, and then we want to do that. Why are you barking? Oh, for God's sakes, who cares? If I'm on this, what do we get for rock attribute? We get the consuming type. If we get toString, what do we get here? The consuming type. See, that's where it also gets weird, because on invocations, it's like, wait a minute, on an invocation, I would actually want it to be, I think this is probably the really confusing one, is I would want, I get on a method definition here that this would end up showing up for the consuming type because it's a declaration that ends up being on this type. But for something like this, we want to actually get the declaration of the method for that type. If I was on a random variable, let's do that. Let's say we have like var x is equal to GUID new GUID, okay? And now we say var y is equal to x toString plus this dot toString or something like weird like that. Well, if I was on new GUID here, I wouldn't expect it to be on rock attribute. I'm sorry, I wouldn't expect it to be on consuming type. If I'm on GUID here, now it's on GUID. That makes sense because that's an identifier. But if I'm on X here, you notice we do pick it up and it's going to be the consuming type. If I do toString here, it'll be consuming. Like all these end up being the consuming type. In this case, this makes sense because this is the this and it should be consuming type. That's be consuming type. So yeah, it starts getting to be I think with that we still want to do some work here because I think we want to have for invocations that whether like no matter what you're on with the invocation, it should end up being the thing you're invoking on, like in this case GUID. And X here is a local variable. Well, what's its type? And that's what should be here. It should be string. Now string you can't mock anyway, but the point is that's the thing I want to mock. It's not the consuming type here. Like here, it's of property type. It makes sense that property type is what I want to do. So I think I got some work here to clear it up a little bit, but I'm kind of getting near the end of my 2 hours, so I might do another coding stream tonight and continue working this, and then finish out Halo Reach after lunch today. That might be what I want to do. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do a coding stream tonight and finish this out and maybe do some extra work there and then add the documentation. And then after lunch today, I will do a Halo Reach playthrough and finish out that game because I only have 2 missions left to do. All right, so that's the plan. I want to thank everybody who's been watching either live or in the future. If you haven't subscribed to the channel just yet, please do so. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm trying to get to 5,000 subscribers, so any new subscription helps. If you've already subscribed, I appreciate you doing that. Again, I've just listed the schedule for today. On Tuesday, I'm going to be finishing out Aliens Fireteam Elite with the Haydens, and we should be able to get one more chapter, the last chapter done, and close that out. And then on Friday, I'm going to start a new game. What that is, you're just going to have to tune in to find out. With that, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you all for watching. Take care. Hope to see you in the future.